What's up? I'm back again. We're ready to do some more algebra today. Right now we are doing lesson 2.2, creating and solving equations. So this is going to be a good one. We're going to take a bunch of real life situations and be able to write an equation and then figure out some answers. So it's going to be good. Alright, so first thing first, we've got this story about Corey. It says, suppose Corey and his friend Walter go to a movie. Each of their tickets cost the same amount, and they spend $5 on frozen yogurt. The total amount they spend is $22. How can you write an equation that describes the situation? Alright, so we've got Corey and his friend Walter. They each buy a ticket. Those tickets cost the same amount. We don't know how much those tickets cost. So we're going to write 2x, because x is the cost of the tickets. Okay, if you want to use c for cost or t for tickets, that'd be great. So 2x, because we bought 2 tickets. Okay, and they spend $5 on frozen yogurt. So 2x plus the $5 they spend on frozen yogurt, and the total amount is going to equal $22. Alright, now this is different from what we talked about yesterday, mainly because everything we did yesterday was an expression. Okay? The difference between an expression and an equation is an equation is going to have an equal sign. There's going to be something on the other side that it's going to actually equal, which then allows us to solve it and figure out what the variable actually represents. So, that's all we have to do on that one. They don't ask us to solve it, so we can just write the equation. Remember, a lot of times on your end of course tests, they're going to ask you which equation would you use to solve the problem. Okay? Not, hey, what's the answer? Okay? So you got to be able to write those equations. Okay? It's really important. Alright, so moving on to our next example. Alright? This is they're wanting us to be able to use the distributive property, okay, to be able to solve equations. So first, we got to remember what the distributive property is. So if we have 3, and then we have x plus 4 in parentheses, okay, the distributive property tells me that I would do 3 times the x and get 3x, and I would do 3 times the 4 and get 12. So I would have 3x plus 12. Okay, that is the distributive property. So they're telling me up front, it makes it a little bit easier for me, they're telling us up front that you're going to use distributive property. It's not just a simple, straightforward question. Okay, you're going to have to set something up where you're using distributive property. Obviously on a test you won't know that. So you're going to have to kind of start to recognize what that looks like as we work a bunch of these problems. Alright, so we got Mari, Carlos, and Amanda collect stamps. Okay, Carlos has 4 more stamps than Mari, and Amanda has 2 times as many stamps as Carlos. Altogether, they have 100 stamps. Okay, that's important. Find the number of stamps that each person has, represent this situation with an equation, and solve it. So, we've got Mari, we've got Carlos, and we've got Amanda. And we know that Mari plus Carlos plus Amanda all together have 100 stamps. Alright, so if they all together have 100 stamps, we're going to have to go back to the start of the question, and we're going to figure out how we can write this down, because as long as we have 3 different variables, there's no way for us to work it to figure out how much each person has. So we're starting right here where it says Carlos has 4 more than Mari. So here's Carlos, okay, and Carlos has 4 more, so 4 plus whatever Mari has. Okay, I like to use the letters of the people, M for Mari, C for Carlos, A for Amanda, because then at the end I don't have to figure out which letter represents what. I don't have to remember like, oh, I used an X for Mari and I used a Y for Carlos, okay? If I use the letters that their names start with, it's easy to know which one's which. Alright? Then it says Amanda has 2 times as many stamps as Carlos. So Amanda has 2 times Carlos. Okay, so I still have a problem because I have Mari up here that I don't know anything about, so I can just put an M. I've got Carlos, which is 4 plus Mari, but then I've got Amanda, which is 2 times Carlos. Well, this has an M, this has an M, so if I could just make this have an M, then my life is going to be a lot simpler. So, instead of the C, I know that Carlos and the C is actually 4 plus M. Okay, so instead of writing it 2C, okay, I can write this as Amanda equals 2 times 4 plus Mari. Because 4 plus Mari is Carlos. That's what we wrote right here. Alright, so now I can plug this, and this in right here to help me figure out the answer. Alright, so Mari is just M. Carlos is 4 plus M. And Amanda is 2 times 4 plus M. So look, that's where our distributive property is going to come into play. Alright, so now we just have to solve this equation. Okay, we've got to be able to write down what we're doing here. I don't know why I put a 5 there. That is definitely an M. Alright, so we have distributive property needs to get done first. So 2 times the 4 is 8, and 2 times the M is 2M. Okay, everything else we're going to write it down exactly like it's already written. Okay, so I'm going to put all the M's together. This is combining my like terms. So I have an M here, I have another M here, and then I have 2 M's over here. So M plus M is 2M, 2M plus another 2M is 4M. Okay, and then I have plus 4 plus 8, that makes 12. Okay, and I get 100. Okay, I'm going to subtract, because I've got to go the inverse of the order of operations when I'm solving an equation. So I have 4M equals 100 minus 12 is 88. I divide by 4. When I divide by 4, I get M equals 22. So Mari, because remember M stood for Mari, Mari has 22 stamps. Okay, so Mari's got 22 stamps. So I can put that up here. Mari has 22. Okay, now Carlos has 4 plus Mari. So 4 plus 22 is 26. Now I have 2 choices. I can either put Mari's number in here, which was the 22, or I can just put Carlos's number right here. So if I know Carlos is 26, I can say 2 times 26 is 52. So now I have Amanda had 52 stamps, Carlos had 26, and Mari had 22. Okay? And there's my answer. Okay? I know exactly how many stamps each person had right there. Alright? Now, we're also going to have to write some equations. These are going to be a little bit simpler, probably the easiest ones of them all, where you've got variables on both sides. Okay, so usually they're going to tell you 2 different things are equal. It could be phone company rates, it could be cars driving in the same direction or something. It could be moving companies, just a bunch of different things it could be. But we'll figure out what this is. Alright, so there we go, moving company. Alright, so moving company charges $760 plus $20 per hour. Another moving company charges $820 plus $14 per hour. How many hours, for how many hours do the companies charge the same amount? Alright, and then what is that charge? So, you've got company 1, and they charge $7.60 plus $20 an hour. You've got company 2, and they charge $820 plus $14 per hour. Says for how many hours do they charge the same? Well, the same, that word means the same as equal. So I just need to take these two expressions and put them equal to each other. So 820 plus 14h equals 760 plus 20h. Alright, so now I need to get the h's on the same side, and I need to get the numbers by themselves on the same side. Okay, so if I have 14h, 14 is smaller than 20, so I know if I subtract this, it's going to keep the numbers positive for me. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 14h. So I'm going to get 820 equals 760 plus 6h. Then when I subtract, I've got to subtract the 760 to this side over here. So when I do that, I'm going to get 60. Alright? So hopefully everybody's still with me. So now I have 60 equals 6h. I want to divide by 6. So 60 divided by 6 is 10. Alright? So that means that for 10 hours, okay, for 10 hours, both companies charge the exact same amount. Okay, so here's what they want to know now. They want to know how much do they charge. Okay, so all you've got to do is plug the 10 hours back into either one of these. Okay, I think probably the top one's easier just because I can do 20 times 10 in my head. Okay, pretty simply. So 20 times 10 is 200. So then 760 plus 200 equals 960. So that means for 10 hours, okay, if you're going to move from, I don't know, Crawford to El Paso, it may take a little longer than 10 hours, but somewhere out west, okay, then it's going to cost you $960. Alright? Now, just for fun, I want you to see if you can try and figure out if it's going to take you less, okay, less than 10 hours, which company would be cheaper. Okay, hit pause and think about it for a second. Which company would be cheaper if you're using less than 10 hours of moving? Now I want you to think about, okay, which company would be more. Okay, it should just be the other one, okay? But just give it a quick thought. Okay, if you haven't hit pause yet, hit pause, think about it. Alright, now, here's how you're going to think about it. This one, company 1, has the smaller startup fee. Okay, which means that's the one that's going to be cheaper. Okay, that's the one that's going to be cheaper all the way up until 10 hours. Once you get to the 10 hours, the second company is going to be cheaper. Okay, because they're charging less per hour. So once you get to that equal mark, okay, then now the one that's charging less per hour is going to be cheaper for all the rest of the hours. Alright, so keep that in mind as you're working problems. Kind of common sense, think your way through. Alright, here we go. Last problem of the day right here. This is kind of a tough one. Sometimes they're going to tell you, hey, you should make a chart for this. Sometimes they may not tell you, but it may be a good idea. Just if you start getting bogged down with a whole bunch of information, try and make yourself a chart based on the things that they're telling you. Especially if it seems like there's a whole bunch going on and you have no idea where to start. Make a chart. Start writing some stuff down. Alright, so here's our story. Kim works 3 hours more each day than Jill does. Jack works 1 hour less each day than Jill does. Over 2 days, the number of hours Kim works is equal to the difference of 3 times the number of hours Jack works and the number of hours Jill works. How many hours does each person work each day? Let X be the number of hours Jill works in 1 day. Alright, so like I said, a lot of information. There's a bunch going on, so we just got to start with the very last thing they tell us, that X is going to be the number of hours Jill works in one day. So we made a table. You can see they made a table here, hours worked per day, hours worked over 2 days. I've made the same table up here. So I'm going to start with what they told me last. X is the number of hours Jill works in one day. So that is an X. Then I'm going to go back to the top, and it says at the very beginning, first part, Kim works 3 hours more each day than Jill. So Kim is Jill plus 3. Okay? So that is going to be X plus 3. It says Jack works 1 hour less each day than Jill. So if I take Jill and I subtract 1, I take 1 away, I need 1 less, that's going to be Jack. So X minus 1. Alright, there's no going up a hill, there's no fetching a pail of water, it's just how much they work each day. Okay, there's no donuts, like no Jack and Jill, like it's just going to work. Alright, so here we go. Now, here's the next part. Okay, this is why we know to write the second part of our table. It says over the course of 2 days. Okay, over the course of 2 days. It says the number of hours Kim works is equal to the difference of 3 times the number of hours Jack works and the number of hours Jill works. How many hours does each person work each day? Alright, so if this is hours in 1 day, and we need to know how many in 2 days, well, hopefully it makes sense that you would just do times 2. Okay, if I work 5 hours 1 day, and then work 5 hours again the next day, well, 2 times 5 would be 10. Okay, if I work 10 hours 1 day, and then work 10 hours again the next day, well, 2 times 10 would be 20. That's how many hours I worked for those 2 days. Alright, so I'm going to take 2 times X plus 3, and that's going to give me Kim. I'm going to take 2 times X, and that's going to give me Jill. And then I'm going to take 2 times X minus 1, and that's going to give me Jack. Now, just to make it easier, once I start trying to put all this into an equation, I'm going to go ahead and work these out. So, distributive property, 2 times the X is 2X. And 2 times the 3 is 6. This 2x is good, I don't have to do anything to it. And then on the bottom, 2 times the x is 2x, and 2 times the negative 1 is negative 2. Alright, so now here's where I really got to pay attention. Okay, and I'm going to go step by step where it says over 2 days. Okay, so where it says over 2 days, the number of hours that Kim works is equal. Okay, so the number of hours Kim works. Well, here's Kim, 2x plus 6. Okay, so 2. Well, let's backtrack real fast. Okay, the number of hours Kim works, so this is over 2 days. We're going to say Kim is equal to the difference. So difference means subtract. Well, what are we subtracting? 3 times Jack. Okay, and the number of hours Jill. So 3 times Jack minus Jill. So how much did Kim work on 2 days? 2x plus 6. So that goes in for Kim. 3 times Jack. Well, what was Jack? Jack was the 2x minus 2. And then minus, what was Jill? Jill was the 2x. So now I have this equation. I've got variables on both sides, and I've got distributive properties. So the 2 things that we've already worked on. Alright, so I'm going to do the distributive property first. The 3 times the 2x is 6x. The 3 times the negative 2 is minus 6. I still have the minus 2x over there. I copy down all this other stuff that I haven't used yet. Alright, if I have 6x minus 2x, I've got to get those like terms together before I start going back and forth across the equal sign. Alright? So 6x minus 2x is 4x. And then I've still got my minus 6. And I still haven't done anything with everything that's over there on the left. Alright, so I got to get this x over here. I got to get the whole numbers over here. So if I want to take this 4x and subtract it, I can get it over here. Well, 2 minus 4 is going to be negative 2x. I've still got my plus 6. And that's going to equal negative 6. So if this is positive 6, I'm going to move it over by subtracting it. And I get negative 2x equals negative 12. When I divide by negative 2, I'm going to get x equals 6. Because I have a negative 12 divided by a negative 2. So a negative divided by a negative is going to give me a positive answer. Now, this is one of those times I need you to common sense check your work. You can't work negative hours. Like, you can be negative during those hours, but you can't work negative hours. Okay, you can't unwork them. Okay, so we have to get a number here. Okay, because they told us that x is the number of hours Jill works. So now I can answer the question. I know how much everybody worked in one day. So x was Jill. So she worked 6 hours. X plus 3, 6 plus 3 is 9. So Kim worked 9 hours. And Jack was x minus 1, so 6 minus 1 is 5 hours. Okay, and I have then figured out how many hours each person worked in a day. Alright, hopefully all that made sense. Hopefully you're going to do great on your homework today. Hope everything's going well. And have a great day. We'll see you again next time.